Welcome to you, Mother Trekkers, this week, where we're taking a pit stop into two absolutely wild flash fiction stories you sent our way.
hmm
These tales really throw you headfirst into what happens when the unbelievable slams right into everyday life.
Yeah,
We're exploring the surprising fallout of extraordinary power and the super delicate dance of time itself in this week's pit stop.
it's fascinating how these concentrated bursts of narrative can spark such contemplation, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get this immediate hit of the fantastic, but it's often the very human reactions and the consequences that linger.
Absolutely. So for our first pit stop, let's dive into a flash fiction story called Starfall. Now, the initial setup is, well, it seems simple. Something mysterious falls from the sky.
Right.
And it's definitely not your average meteorite. This thing brings unpredictable power with it. And as you might imagine, this attracts a whole spectrum of attention.
From the good to the bad, I guess.
Exactly. From the genuinely curious to those with far less noble intentions.
What immediately caught my attention in Starfall was the protagonist, Emily's almost atypical response. Instead of the widespread panic or fear that, a celestial object with strange energies might usually cause,
Right, total freak out.
yeah, she displays this compelling blend of fascination and an almost immediate sense of responsibility. It makes you wonder about the human capacity to adapt, even to the truly bizarre.
Right. It's like the universe's most chaotic, lost and found, and the item could, rewrite reality. And the story's nod to her comic book nerd training, I thought that was brilliant.
Oh yeah, that was a great touch.
It provides this relatable framework for her mindset. She's almost operating with a pre-existing mental toolkit for dealing with the supernormal.
It's a clever narrative device, yeah.
Yeah.
It taps into how our shared cultural stories can actually shape our understanding and even our responses to the unexpected. It begs the question, do the stories we consume prepare us in ways we don't even realize?
Interesting point.
What stood out to you about those initial scattered reports of powers manifesting?
Oh, the sheer lack of any coherent pattern. Forget carefully orchestrated superhero origins.
Totally.
We're talking about a random burnout suddenly vanishing, a kid who's been pushed around his whole life inexplicably discharging lightning. It's messy, it's uncontrolled, and it's certainly not the streamlined narrative of most superhero lore. It feels authentically chaotic, doesn't it?
Precisely. There's no inherent morality or inherent direction to these powers. It really underscores the idea that power itself is amoral. It's the individual wielding it and their motivations that ultimately determine its impact.
Yeah.
And the focus on the fragments themselves as these volatile, unpredictable sources of energy is crucial, isn't it?
They're like cosmic wildcards, where the potential payoff or the potential disaster is completely unknown. And Emily's drive to collect them feels less like a heroic calling and more like a very sensible act of damage control.
Right. Like you said, damage control.
It's not about her wanting to become superpowered. It's about preventing a cascade of unpredictable and potentially catastrophic events. I mean, imagine a dozen people suddenly wielding these abilities with no clue what they're doing.
Yeah, no rule book.
Mhm.
Her subsequent quest is anything but glamorous, which I found particularly engaging. It deviates so sharply from the typical superhero narrative. Can you recall some of those more unconventional moments?
Oh, the lowlights reel of Emily's accidental apocalypse-averting adventures. Picture her trying to barter with a teenager who can now breathe fire,
Yeah.
offering concert tickets as the going rate for de-escalating a potential arson incident. Then you have the government agents described in this wonderfully mundane way, burdened by paperwork.
Middle-aged and paperwork obsessed.
Exactly. Utterly unprepared for interdimensional fallout. And who could forget the Walmart showdown with the self-proclaimed gravity goddess, whose primary feat seemed to be making frozen foods defy physics.
The levitating frozen pea.
Right. It's this blend of the extraordinary and the utterly ordinary that makes the story so memorable and Emily so relatable.
That juxtaposition is key. It highlights the absurdity of the situation and grounds the fantastical
Yeah.
in a recognizable reality. And what about Emily's personal experience with the shards? It wasn't a transformative experience in the traditional sense, was it?
No, not really. It's depicted as this constant underlying hum, this ever-present potential. It's less about an immediate metamorphosis and more about the subtle burden of carrying such volatile power, the constant awareness of what could happen. It's a much more nuanced portrayal.
Which creates a compelling contrast with the antagonist, the collector.
Yeah.
What were your initial impressions of this character?
He felt immediately familiar, didn't he? The slick suit, the smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes.
Definitely getting those vibes.
He's the archetype of the person who seeks control under the guise of order, and you instinctively know his vision of unity comes with a heavy price tag. His goal of a power-based New World Order. Well, it's a tale as old as time, just updated with cosmic hardware. And the fact that he's amassing followers, people drawn in by promises of a better world, speaks volumes about the human desire for solutions, regardless of the potential dangers lurking beneath the surface.
Wisely. He embodies the seductive nature of power and the dangerous illusion that it can provide simple answers to complex problems. And it's this stark contrast with Emily's more hesitant, almost reluctant approach to the shards that really defines her turning point.
Exactly. She's not driven by some grand, heroic destiny. She's witnessed firsthand the messy, unpredictable consequences of this power in the hands of ordinary people.
Yeah.
The well-intentioned mistakes, the petty squabbles amplified to a potentially global scale. Her motivation is rooted in a very practical desire to prevent widespread chaos. She's not the chosen one, she's just someone who recognizes a clear and present danger and feels compelled to act.
And the final confrontation in the park is so brilliantly understated, isn't it?
Yeah.
It avoids the cliche of a massive city-destroying battle.
Yeah, no skyscrapers falling.
And opts for this much more personal, almost intimate showdown.
Which, in a way, makes it even more impactful. It's this quiet struggle with enormous implications. And the dialogue is fantastic. He's spouting rhetoric about destiny and the dawn of a new era.
All that grand stuff.
And she's countering with these incredibly mundane anecdotes about levitating frozen peas and teleportation mishaps. It completely undercuts his grandiosity and brings the whole conflict down to this wonderfully absurd level.
It really highlights her understanding that these powers, while extraordinary, don't inherently bestow wisdom or competence. And that moment when he draws upon the collective power of the shards and Emily has no matching ability to unleash, that creates a real sense of vulnerability.
Oh, yeah. You genuinely wonder how she's going to possibly counter that. She doesn't have a secret power waiting to be activated. Her strength lies in her conviction and her understanding of the true nature and the inherent ridiculousness of the power she's been dealing with.
And then that pivotal moment where the latent energy within her resonates and the shards themselves seem to respond to her in a way they haven't to anyone else, almost yearning for reunification. It's a subtle but powerful shift.
It's as if they recognize a different kind of connection, someone who doesn't seek to dominate or control them, but to understand and contain them. And her desperate plea for wholeness, for integration rather than conflict, that's the catalyst.
The resulting energy surge, described as a pulse of light, the subsequent neutralization of the shards, and the collector's rather anticlimactic defeat. It all feels perfectly aligned with the story's tone. No triumphant fanfare, just...
problem solved. Quietly.
Exactly. Just a problem resolved in a surprisingly quiet way.
And then Emily's left with the aftermath, literally a bag of inert space rocks. Her task isn't over. She now has to figure out what to do with these things.
Right, the cleanup.
And her walk home, not as a celebrated superhero basking in public adoration, but as someone who averted a potential disaster in the most unconventional way, clutching her bag of cosmic oddities. But that lingering sense of potential within her, that flicker of power, it suggests a different, more understated form of heroism, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
One defined by responsibility rather than spectacle.
Absolutely. It implies that true heroism isn't always about dramatic displays of power, but often about the consistent, often unseen work of maintaining a degree of stability in a chaotic world. All right, are you ready to plunge into our second flash fiction story for this pit stop?
Definitely. Let's dive into Sunken Futures. This tale takes us in a completely different direction, a quest for adventure that unexpectedly leads to the discovery of a lost, technologically advanced civilization, but one grappling with a profoundly desperate secret.
The initial premise itself carries a certain irony, doesn't it? The coordinates originating from Maya's wonderfully unreliable, rum-influenced uncle.
Ah, yeah! Gotta love that detail.
And Sarah's initial skepticism about the existence of Atlantis feels very grounded, almost a necessary counterpoint to the fantastical element. It's this blend of the human yearning for discovery and a healthy dose of disbelief.
Right. This isn't some meticulously planned scientific expedition funded by millions. It's two friends on a rusty sailboat, driven more by a shared sense of boredom and a thirst for something beyond the mundane.
Yeah, that kind of reckless abandon fueled by ennui can often lead to the most unexpected discoveries, for better or for worse.
For sure.
And the underwater exploration itself immediately subverts expectations. No ancient ruins covered in barnacles, no majestic crumbling statues.
Nope.
Instead, they encounter this vibrant, humming technology. And then Sarah's emergence into that sunlit, airy chamber, revealing the shimmering, crystalline city, the true Atlantis. Hidden in plain sight, it's a genuinely breathtaking image.
It's such a vivid and unexpected portrayal, isn't it? Not the faded medical Atlantis of legends, but a thriving, technologically advanced society. But that initial wonder quickly gives way to a much more somber tone with the introduction of its inhabitants.
Yes, the description of them possessing haunted eyes and feeding hope immediately signals that this isn't the utopian paradise one might imagine. There's a palpable sense of underlying desperation.
And then the elder, Anya, delivers that chilling line, "You're from the past, we never should have reached back."
Oh,
It instantly reframes everything. Suddenly, Sarah and her friend aren't just explorers. There's something far more significant and potentially far more problematic.
it immediately establishes this compelling mystery surrounding time and the implications of their arrival. And the backstory Anya reveals that her people are the descendants of Earth survivors who sought refuge beneath the waves. It fundamentally alters our perception of Atlantis.
It really does.
Their advanced technology wasn't the product of leisurely progress, but a desperate necessity born from planetary catastrophe.
It's a powerful reversal of the traditional Atlantis myth. They weren't some golden age lost to the depths. They were a civilization forced to adapt and survive against overwhelming odds. And their experiment, this perilous attempt to tap into the energy signatures of the past, that's where the narrative takes a truly intriguing and, well, dangerous turn.
They detected Sarah and her friend not as mere anomalies, but as a potential flicker of potential within a timeline that had already diverged tragically for them. And that specific panel Sarah touched, it wasn't just a random piece of Atlantean technology, was it?
No, absolutely not. It represented their lifeline, their sole connection to a past Sarah's present that they desperately hoped held the key to their future salvation. It's an immense and completely unforeseen weight of responsibility placed on someone who was just, seeking a bit of adventure.
And the abrupt failure of the panel, the sudden extinguishing of light, the violent churning of the ocean outside, the increasing, crushing pressure against the dome, it's a rapid and terrifying descent into disaster.
And Anya's reaction, that mixture of accusation and profound despair in her words, "You breached it. We were reaching for salvation, and you can just feel the crushing weight of their collective hope being shattered and the enormity of Sarah's unintentional act."
The story so effectively illustrates the concept of a temporal ripple effect, doesn't it? Their mere presence, this unforeseen interference, disrupts the delicate equilibrium of this ambitious experiment.
Yeah, totally destabilizes it.
Their past, which is Sarah's present, wasn't just history to them. It was their last desperate chance at existence.
And the tragic irony of the entire situation culminates in those final, devastating moments. Sarah embarked on a quest for adventure, but inadvertently became an agent of destruction. She's not a villain, not a hero,
No.
just an ordinary person who stumbled into an extraordinary and terrible destiny.
That final, haunting image of the dome fracturing, Anya's silenced scream, and Sarah's own reflection revealing the horrifying future she unknowingly erased. It's a profoundly chilling conclusion. It forces you to contemplate the interconnectedness of time and the potentially catastrophic consequences of even seemingly insignificant actions.
So what do you make of these two flash fiction stories we've explored in this pit stop? One delves into the unpredictable chaos of sudden, inexplicable power and the remarkably grounded heroism of someone trying to manage the fallout. The other throws us into the incredibly delicate balance of time and the truly devastating impact of unintentional interference.
Despite their fantastical premises, both narratives really resonate with fundamental questions of responsibility. In Starfall, it's about navigating the complexities of wielding power even when it's thrust upon you unexpectedly.
Right.
In Sunken Futures, it's about the profound and often unforeseen consequences of our actions regardless of our intentions. Those ripples can extend far beyond our immediate perception,
It really makes you consider, doesn't it? What subtle starfalls might be happening around us in our own lives, in smaller, less dramatic ways? What unintended consequences might our everyday actions set in motion? And what potential sunken futures might we be unknowingly influencing with the choices we make today? Definitely some compelling food for thought.
Absolutely.
Thanks for taking this pit stop with us on You, Mother Truckers.
A thought-provoking exploration as always.
Rate and follow You, Mother Truckers, for more captivating mysteries from the world of flash fiction.